A few months ago, I told myself I was gonna slow down on watching new content and instead revisit some old favorites. And yet, somehow I find myself rewatching Kare Kano, also known as His and Her Circumstances, practically by accident. I watched the show over 2 years ago and gave it a 7 out of 10, excluding the last 8 episodes because of reasons. Hideaki Anno is an extremely cursed man who probably sold his soul to a malevolent demon in order to become an amazing director. I remember watching the first episode for the first time and being utterly fucking overwhelmed. A season's worth of events happen in that episode. On top of that, the dialogue is super fast-paced, and there is a shit ton of on-screen text, which can make it very hard for English speakers who are watching with subtitles to keep up. And you can't take the FLCO route and just avoid this by watching the dub, because the dub is unbelievably bad. With the exception of the female lead, who is actually pretty good. There's the added element of the fast-moving and over-the-top visuals, again, something that FLCL has, which also makes it a pain to watch subtitled. That being said, on the rewatch, I watched a version with a different format for the subtitles, and holy shit, did that make a difference. That already significantly increases the quality of the viewing experience compared to my first viewing. Now that I knew what to expect, the first episode wasn't nearly as overwhelming, and I loved it. This brings me to the topic of Hideaki Anno. While rom-coms aren't a genre of anime I usually search for, I had heard that Anno's first directing project after Neon Genesis Evangelion was a romantic comedy. So of course that piqued my interest, since that is one of the 2 shows I've rated a 10 out of 10, and the show I believe to be the best directed. What's wild about Kare Kano is that it seems completely different from Anno's previous directorial work at first glance. NGE's directing stands out for its use of visual storytelling, symbolism, interesting and creative shot composition, and acting through animation, like the physical movement, the facial expressions, etc. Meanwhile, Kare Kano is still incredibly well directed, but this manifests more in the over-the-top visual metaphors and the flexibility of the character designs. Characters will be in pretty penciled drawings when having a romantic moment, but they'll look extra cartoony in comedy scenes, and their features and size will distort drastically in order to fit the tone and emotional state. I especially love the use of paper in the first few episodes. In the first episode, when Miyazawa is talking to Arima about her taste in music, a little version of her head sticks out to tell the audience what she's really thinking, and it is the most 90s shot ever, because you could never get that same effect with modern animation. And then there's that utterly iconic part where she runs into Arima in the hallway and the paper she's drawn on literally rips in half. Like I said, this is pretty different from the style of NGE, but I think this speaks to an uncanny ability that Anno has. If I had to describe his directing style in a word, it would be effective. Visual metaphor is something he excels at in both of these shows. It's just that the way those stylistic elements manifest differs greatly to fit the genre. Simply put, he's a good director. Side note, I'm also very curious about something. Anno has stated in the past that he might be somewhat autistic and has difficulty connecting with people. I know that some people who exhibit autistic behavior will sometimes have a genius trait, such as uncanny memorization or proficiency in certain subjects. I'm honestly wondering if visual creativity is Anno's genius, and society has just made that type of manifestation not so obvious, since we're all taught from a very young age that being smart means being highly skilled in math and science. It's probably just a coincidence, or maybe he just connects with people better through art than social interaction. I don't know enough about this type of psychology and neurology, but it is something that occurred to me. Please let me know if you know more about this subject than I do. Of course, I had heard before watching Kare Kano for the first time that the ending completely falls apart due to production problems. Where have I heard that story before? And yeah, those last 8 episodes are... woof. I never did finish my rewatch of the show, stopping at around the 9th-ish episode, mostly because other shows caught my attention. But had I finished my rewatch, I might have just stopped at episode 18, since it seems like a proper climax, so to speak, and is the last episode before the production problems become apparent. A part of me wonders if I should have just stopped at episode 18 on my first watch, since I knew what was to follow. Hard to say, I guess. I'm kind of hoping that Kare Kano gets the same treatment as some other popular 90s anime and gets a sort of series redo, but I'm pretty sure the manga author no longer wanted her work to be adapted, so probably not. Anyways, if you've ever been curious about this show or interested in the career of Hideaki Anno, definitely give it a watch. Hell, if you are at all interested in romantic comedies, I would consider this a must-watch. The two leads are incredibly likable, and the show goes out of its way to stomp on some annoying cliches that show up in rom-coms. Side note, episode 3 is one of my favorite episodes of anime ever, and it really draws attention to this show's themes about duplicity and having a confusing relationship with your own personality. Although, reminder, if you do watch Kare Kano, try your hardest to find a version with readable subtitles. Okay, that's my piece. This is one of my first uploads, so if you're watching this on YouTube, I would appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe, because I need to get the ball rolling on this channel. Or, if you don't like the video, tell me why, because I'm still figuring this stuff out. Hopefully my next upload will be in 2 weeks, and in the meantime, you can check out this podcast thing, where I ramble on about Mob Psycho for 10 minutes. Okay, bye!